Good morning and welcome to Mosaic. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss and honored to be your host this morning. Throughout the country and indeed throughout the world, communities are asking important questions about how do we care for one another, how do we get to know one another, and how do we form leaders into the next generation. We'd like to invite you into a conversation this morning with some of the ways in which the Jewish community is answering those questions by first inviting you into a conversation with some Israelis who are here from a very special organization that is called Gvanim. Gvanim in Hebrew means hues, H-U-E-S. And I'd like to introduce you to Rabbi Ezra Endy, who is the rabbi of the Free Synagogue of Jerusalem, and Oshra Friedman, who works for an important organization called Sebaka in Israel that is a legal services organization for Ethiopian Israelis. Welcome, Oshra and Rabbi.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Let's just jump right in and ask you, Rabbi, what is Gvanim and what does it do?
So Gvanim means hues. And it brings together people, I would say leaders from different segments of the Israeli society. People that come from the ultra-Orthodox world, the Orthodox world. I'm a Reform rabbi. People that come from a Middle Eastern background, a European background. People from different socio-economical statuses. And we're there in order to work together, in order to create a group that will deepen the pluralistic nature of the Israeli society.
And Oshra, in Israel, when we think of the word pluralism or pluralistic, what does that mean to you as an Israeli in Israeli culture?
For me, as a person, it means to get to know others from the society, to be open-minded and see that there's different people around us, which we don't meet every day. But we usually judge them by the way they look, the way they think, the way they walk, what they are wearing, what kind of language they are speaking with. And at the end of the day, when you get them into the room together and you find out that you have things in common, and might be even differences, but you are open-minded to listen and learn about each other in order to create a better society that we wish our kids to raise in.
And so then, Oshra, what attracted you personally to Gvanim in particular?
When I got to Gvanim, the one thing that I was really actually looking for is to be part of a group that's, at the end of the day, one would create something. I don't know what kind of a thing. But when I got there and I met different people, it's actually opened my eyes how many choices do I have as a person in this world, whether to create something or to be joined to something that is happening, and what can I bring from myself in order to help that group to succeed. And I'm very happy that I got there.
And Rabbi, do you, can you talk a little bit about even some of the differences that you've already noticed in yourself or in the group of people that you've come to meet for yourself in this context?
Sure. First of all, it's really wonderful to me to make new friends. I mean, I have ultra-Orthodox friends. I have, friends from different sides of the Israeli society that I don't encounter every day. And that really, first of all, opens my heart, because I believe that the way to make a change is to meet people on the personal level. And that can really change. It can change my life. It can change the lives of the people around me. It raises my curiosity. And it really empowers me in a way that, I feel I can make a difference. Because it's not only about me. It's about the people that are with me in the group. And I feel that together we can really make a change if we continue these wonderful connections and friendships that we're forming.
How many are you actually in Gvanim?
15, I believe.
Yes.
15.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And can you give us a little bit of a sense of really kind of its structure, what you do during the course of a year, what you do together?
So we meet once a month. And every meeting takes place in a different location.
For a full day.
For a full day, right. And is led by one of the members of the group. So for example, we had a day in Bnei Brak or Jerusalem in, where the ultra-Orthodox community is. We had a day in Jerusalem at the Reform College. And we had a day, in the south of Jerusalem that was led by a member of the group who was very, very active in advancing peripheral people in Israel, people that live in the periphery. So every day is led by a different member of the group and deals with the topics that he or she presents.
So when you say people who live on the periphery, meaning on the margins of Israeli society.
Right.
So as an example, without being it's always hard to talk about populations and not seem stereotypical, but just for the sake of languaging, what's an example in Israeli society of someone who might be on the periphery?
Well, if we were talking about the geographic periphery, we know that the big cities in Israel are Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and Haifa, and then you have other cities. And then, for example, we have people that live in the south.
So people who live geographically on the outskirts of it.
Right, that's one periphery. Of course, we have other peripheries.
Yes.
We have a member in the group that is, a representative of the Israeli-Russian community.
Yes.
We have, members that really, represent different people of different colors and shades and tastes. And it's really a privilege to be part of such a group.
Rabbi Endy and Oshra, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back in just a moment here on Mosiac. Good morning and welcome back to Mosiac. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss and honored to be your host. We're in the middle of a wonderful conversation about the ways that people get to know one another and move into areas of leadership. In this case, in Israel, we want to reintroduce you to Rabbi Ezra Endy, who is the rabbi of the Free Synagogue of Jerusalem, and Oshra Friedman, who works for an organization called Sebaka, which provides free legal services to Ethiopian Israelis. Welcome back, Rabbi Ezra Endy and Oshra.
Glad to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about what your broader framework is. So what brings you to the San Francisco Bay Area? I know that there's a connection to the Jewish Community Federation of San Francisco, Marin, Sonoma, and the Peninsula. And so I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about that connection for us.
The program Gvanim is actually established by the San Francisco Federation in Israel. And this is the 13th group cohort, and they are having the same programs here in San Francisco and actually all over, I think, United States, this kind of Gvanim, which is a little bit different from what we are having in Israel. So this is the connection, and I think one of the things that the Federation is actually trying to create is to take all the differences and the kinds of people in the Israeli society, put them together and asking really hard questions about our identity. How do you see the Israeli society? How do we see our future? Probably it's different from the discussion that the groups in the United States are having, although we have some common things.
And this is the 13th cohort, so it means the 13th year of the Federation's program with Gvanim in Israel. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of impact that you've seen that it's had in Israel from what you see? I imagine that something about the impact is what attracted you to actually say that you'd like to be a part of the current cohort.
I believe that, this can really change lots of things, because normally people from different ends of society do not necessarily meet and are very detached from one another. I keep going back to the ultra-Orthodox point, but that's a very meaningful point, because in Israel, the ultra-Orthodox community is very separate than the rest of the people. And this bridge is a very important one, especially for me as a Reform rabbi. And so I really am very, very hopeful and very optimistic that we can really, work on projects together. We can bring people closer. I serve in a community in Jerusalem that is very diverse. And in this community, there's tension between the ultra-Orthodox residents and the other residents in the neighborhood. And I'm very, very hopeful that thanks to the relationships that I'm forming during this year, we can really bring people closer. We can have people talk to each other.
And can you talk a little bit about the two of you together? So you are two of a larger cohort.
Right.
But can you just give us a little bit of a sense, each of you, like where you come from, where your families come from, because you kind of illustrate in your own personhood what the diversity of Israeli society really is. So Oshra.
I immigrated to Israel with my family when I was 7 from Ethiopia. I identified myself as a Jewish Israeli woman who have been born in Ethiopia but raised in Israel. I work a lot in the Ethiopian society for the past few years because I do believe that the community is actually struggling for equal rights, for having justice, especially when it comes to the community who are immigrants. But I also believe and very optimistic about how our society in Israel became very open-minded about everything, without judging. Even when I came to Gvanim, some of the participants, yes, they knew that there is Ethiopian Jewish in Israel. Yes, they see them over the TV and over the newspapers, not always in a good way. But for the first time to sit up together and see that we may think the same thing about, let's say, the Israel society or even our lives as parents, as children, as part of the country, and seeing in a different angle of the goodness of the community, which I think I feel the same way about other people too in the group. So I think if the program wanted to create this open-minded thing, it's really happening. It's really happening.
Wonderful. And in just a moment, we're going to take a break, but Rabbi, let us know a little bit about where you come from and your family.
So my father is American. He's from Brooklyn. He made Aliyah. He immigrated to Israel in '69. My mother immigrated to Israel from Iraq, and she came to Israel. They met there. And within me, I have a European side and a Sephardic side, a Middle Eastern side. And those are two very, very important sides of my personality, and I try to portray them in what I do.
And so I'm just curious to know, in your particular family, did you grow up speaking English and Hebrew and Arabic?
Mostly Hebrew. I think both my parents wanted to raise an Israeli kid that talks Hebrew. And that was really something that was very important for them, and that's why they immigrated to Israel.
Wonderful. Oshra, Rabbi, believe it or not, we need to say goodbye to the two of you. Thank you so much for being with us, and we're going to return in just a moment to Mosiac to continue this conversation about the ways we care for one another and form leadership into the next generation. Please join us in just one moment back here on Mosiac.